In this tutorial, you will learn how to deploy a web application with AWS Amplify. Amplify offers a Git-based CI/CD workflow for building, deploying, and hosting single-page web applications or static sites with serverless backends. With full-stack TypeScript capabilities, Amplify brings the power and breadth of AWS services to a familiar front-end developer experience. Simply author app requirements like data models, business logic, and auth rules in TypeScript. Amplify automatically configures the correct cloud resources and deploys them to per-developer cloud sandbox environments for fast, local iteration. In this task, you will create a new web application using React, a JavaScript library for building user interfaces, and learn how to configure AWS Amplify for your first project. 1. In a new terminal window or command line, run the following commands to verify that you are running at least Node.js version 18.16.0 and NPM version 6.14.4 or greater. If you are not running these versions, visit the Notages and NPM website for more information. Note, your output may differ based on the version installed. Step 2. Create a new React application. 1. In a new terminal or command line window, run the following command to use Vite to create a React application. 2. In the terminal window, select and open the local link to view the Vite plus React application. 3. Open a new terminal window, navigate to your project's root folder, expense tracker, and run the following command. Note, running the previous command will scaffold a lightweight Amplify project in the apps directory where you install the packages. Task 2. Initialize the Amplify backend. In this task, you will use AWS Amplify to configure a cloud backend for the app. AWS Amplify Gen 2 uses a full-stack TypeScript developer experience (DX) for defining backends. Amplify offers a unified developer experience with hosting, backend, and UI building capabilities and a code-first approach. The app that you build in this tutorial is an expense tracker app that will allow users to create, delete, and list expenses. This example app is a starting point to learn how to build many popular types of CRUD+L, create, read, update, delete, and list applications. Set up Amplify Auth. The app uses email as the default login mechanism. When the users sign up, they receive a verification email. In this step, you will customize the verification email. On your local machine, navigate to the amplify/auth/resource.ts file and update it with the following code to customize the verification email. Then save the file. The image on the right shows an example of the customized verification email. Set up Amplify data. In this step, you will define the schema for the expense data model and use a per-owner authorization rule allow.owner to restrict the expense record's access to the owner of the record. Amplify will automatically add a owner, a.string, field to each expense which contains the expense owner's identity information upon record creation. On your local machine, navigate to the amplify/data/resource.ts file and update the following information to define the schema. Then save the file. Deploy Amplify Cloud Sandbox. The Amplify/backend TS file is already configured to import the auth and data backend definitions. You don't need to change it. Open a new terminal window, navigate to your app's root folder, expense tracker, and run the following command to deploy cloud resources into an isolated development space so you can iterate fast. After the cloud sandbox has been fully deployed, your terminal will display a confirmation message and the amplify_outputs.json file will be generated and added to your project. This deployment will take several minutes to complete. Build the front-end. In this task, you will learn how to use the Amplify UI component library to scaffold out an entire user authentication flow, allow users to sign up, sign in, and reset their password with just few lines of code. Additionally, you will build an app front-end that allows users to create, update, and delete their expenses. Install the Amplify libraries. You will need 2 Amplify libraries for your project. The main AWS Amplify library contains all of the client-side APIs for connecting our app's front-end to our backend, and the AWS Amplify/UI React library contains framework-specific UI components. Open a new terminal window, navigate to your project's root folder, Expense Tracker, and run the following command to install these libraries in the root of the project. Style the app UI. On your local machine, navigate to the expense tracker/src/index.css file and update it with the following code to set the style of the UI. Then save the file. Implement the UI flow for expenses feature. In this step, you will update the src/app.jsx file to configure the Amplify library with the client configuration file amplify_outputs.json. Then, it will generate a data client using the generateClient function. The code uses the Amplify Authenticator component to scaffold out an entire user authentication flow, allowing users to sign up, sign in, reset their password, and confirm sign-in for multi-factor authentication (MFA). On your local machine, navigate to the expense tracker/src/app.jsx file and update it with the following code. Then save the file. We can provide you the location of this code and add a comment if required. Open a new terminal window, navigate to your project's root folder, Expense Tracker, and run the following command to launch the app. Select the local host link to open the Vite Plus React application. Choose the Create Account tab and use the authentication flow to create a new user by entering your email address and a password. Then choose Create Account. You will get a verification code sent to your email. Enter the verification code to log into the app. When signed in, you can start creating expenses and delete them. Deploy app. In this task, you will store your application on a GitHub repository and then set up continuous deployment using the Amplify console. Initialize GitHub repository. In this step, you will create a GitHub repository and commit your code to the repository. You will need a GitHub account to complete this step. Sign into GitHub at https://github.com. In the Start a New Repository section, make the following selections. For repository name, enter Expense Tracker and choose the Public Radio button. Then select Create a New Repository. Open a new terminal window, navigate to your project's root folder, Expense Tracker, and run the following commands to initialize a Git and push the application to the new GitHub repo. Create your app with AWS Amplify. In this step, you will connect the GitHub repository you just created to the AWS Amplify. This will allow you to build, deploy, and host your app on AWS. Sign into the AWS Management Console in a new browser window and open the AWS Amplify console at https://console.aws.amazon.com/amplify/apps. Choose Create New App. On the Start Building with Amplify page, for Deploy Your App, select GitHub and select Next. When prompted, authenticate with GitHub. You will be automatically redirected back to the Amplify console. Choose the repository and main branch that you created earlier. Then select Next. Leave the default build setting and select Next. Review the inputs selected and choose Save and Deploy. AWS Amplify will now build your source code and deploy your app at https://amplifyapp.com, and on every Git push your deployment instance will update. It may take up to 5 minutes to deploy your app. 7. Once the build completes, select the Visit Deployed URL button to see your web app up and running live. Congratulations! You've successfully deployed your web application using AWS Amplify. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with others. And make sure to subscribe to Cloud Academy for more cloud tutorials and tips to keep your projects moving forward.